Today it's Torx versus Robertson. Hey everyone! So last month I put out this short video where I was comparing the Robertson screws versus the Phillips versus the slotted. Now this was just a joke video. I was just having fun expressing some of my frustrations with these other screws. But I got a lot of fairly serious comments and a number of people were challenging me about Torx. Like, what about Torx bits? Now I've got basically no experience with Torx bits at all, so I thought, well, let's check it out. So I'm going to put together a video today where I'm going to try out a bunch of Torx bits and see if they can convince me that they're better or at least as good as the Robertson. So now, let me be completely upfront with my biases. I've been using Robertson screws, since I was a kid, 30, 40 years I've been using them, and I'm not sure all you non-Canadians out there really appreciate how deeply entrenched the Robertson screws are here in Canada. So let me take you to the local big box store and I'm going to show you the fastener aisle. Okay. Virtually everything at this end of the aisle is Robertson. Over here, the wood screws, panhead, countersunk, metric, machine screws, metal screws, 3 bays, all Robertson. Over on this side, deck screws, 2 different kinds of deck screws, flooring screws, construction screws, these are all Robertson. Here we have the drywall screws, those are Phillips, we're not going to talk about those. And in the entire store, this is it for Torx bits. These are GRK Torx fasteners. I bought 2 different kinds. I bought some countersunk ones and some panhead ones. They come with a bit that is supplied, which is good. I also bought a bit for my driver, and this is also a GRK bit, so I know it is matched to these. So according to Wikipedia, the proper name for this type of screw is a hexalobular screw. And we're not putting up with that kind of nonsense, so it's a Torx bit. And there are like 25 different sizes of Torx bits. They go all the way down to like 0.8 millimeters, all the way up to 22 millimeters. It's a huge range. You're probably only going to use like 2 or 3 sizes in most everyday life. So now let's turn our attention to the Robertson. Just like with the Torx, there are many different sizes of screws and screwdrivers, but one of the neat things about Robertson is that they are all color-coded by size. In fact, I tend to forget the numbers that they correspond to because you just call them out by color. For instance, on the smaller end, we have the green here. This is used frequently by electricians because in electrical boxes, the switch contacts and things, those are this size of screw. Up at the larger end, you have the black handle. Every Robertson screwdriver that has a black handle is going to be a certain size. And here in the middle, you have the red. This is the most common one used in woodworking. I looked it up. This is for the number 8, the number 10 size screw, using it constantly. There are a few other sizes, but these are the most common ones. Give me a red handle, give me a green handle, give me a black handle. That's what you tend to say a lot when you're working with Robertson screws. So in the last video, I made a big deal of the fact that the screws would stay on. Now the Torx bits do not stay on. They snug on nicely, but they do fall off. However, if you are going over your head, they will stay on, up to a certain point, but you turn sideways and off they come. So why don't the Robertson fall off? Well, the reason is that this is not actually square. It's not a cube. On a proper Robertson, and I'm probably going to have to come in for a close-up here, the sides of the bit have a slight taper, and that matches a slight taper in the screw. So when you put the screw in, it can push on. And well, they're not all perfect. Some will fall off. Remember, that was a joke video I was making. They're still, they stay on really nicely, and if you give it a little push, it'll stay on, and I can do the up and movement that I was showing in the other video. And that's what I really like about the Robertson, and the fact that they don't cam out. They give a lot of really good grip when you're screwing into some wood. One more thing is that the Robertson are really easy to use one-handed because the screw does such a good job of staying on. You don't need to be holding the screw, you can be holding the piece. Alright, so let's just do a whole bunch of screws. Now I'm going to do a bunch with no pre-drilling and some softwood, then I'm going to do some with pre-drilling, I'm going to do some Robertson, and I'm going to do some Torx, and I've got the same length, 1 3/4 is what I'm doing here. So let's go. So that's 10 each. They both worked. None of them jumped or slipped. They did not go in the exact same. These GRK are designed with a self-tapping bit here. These actually cut in a bit more before the hammering started. These were hammering almost right from the beginning. That's, you know, the threads are just manufactured different there. That's not really a concern. So that was pretty interesting. I did 10 of each, 10 pre-drilled, 10 non-pre-drilled, 10 of each kind of screws. In the pre-drilled, no surprise, they just sank in very easily. In the non-pre-drilled, it took a little bit longer, but they still went in okay. I didn't have any jumping at all. Interesting, in the pre-drilled, I would have to give the edge to the GRK. And again, I'm wondering if that could just because of the thread design here, that these are designed to be self-tapping and they cut really nicely. The GRK sank in beautifully. One interesting difference is that it was actually a little bit, just a smidgen quicker to get the GRK bit started, and which makes sense when you think about it because there are 6 points, so there are 6 positions where you can be in where it will just pop into the tip, whereas with the Robertson there's only 4, so there was like 2 or 3 times out of these 10 where I just had to reposition it just a bit before I had it properly seated. Not a big deal, but you know, I will be honest and I'll give that advantage to the GRK. I'm going to try a little bit of hardwood here. This is some very hard red oak. I've pre-drilled a little hole and let's see how it does. Let's try some end green. Well, okay guys, that was pretty impressive. These Torx bits, hang on a second. So I'm almost feeling a bit unpatriotic for admitting it, but I have to say that these GRK Torx bits were every bit as good as the Robertson that I'm used to. Now, I've only driven a few dozen. This is a first impression. This is not a detailed, heavy, with the numbers and stats and all that kind of review. I have not done thousands, hundreds. I've just done a couple of dozen of these things, and they were really good. They were faster than the Robertson in many cases. I think a lot of that probably has to do with the threads on these GRK bits. I'll put in a little close-up. These are self-tapping, no pre-drilling. They've got a little wedge in there so that it cuts into the wood. Really nice. I'd like to get these kind of threads with a Robertson bit, and then I could, that'd be an interesting comparison. The Robertson, I still think they stay on the screwdriver a little bit better because of the wedge shape, but the 6 points means that you could fit your driver bit into these just a smidgen quicker at times. They don't cam out, they don't cam out, that's a tie there. I have had situations where these have popped out. I wasn't able to do that tonight when I was testing. Again, if you drive thousands of these, maybe some of these will pop out sometimes when you're screwing them. I don't know. First impressions, Torx, pretty good. Robertson, they're still everywhere in Canada. I'm probably not going to stop using them. And I think that's about it for now. I hope you found this entertaining, enjoyable. I hope you learned something, and I hope you come back next time. We'll see you. Oh, still recording. I was still recording. Let's pause that.